Captain Jake Morrison looked out at the dark space beyond Neptune. His ship, the HFY Horizon, was the first human vessel to travel this far from Earth. The mission was simple: explore, map, and report back. Nobody expected to find anything special. "Out here, Captain, I'm getting something strange," said Lisa Grant from her station. She was the ship's communications officer, and her job was to listen for any signals in space. Most of the time, she heard nothing but static. Jake walked over to her console. "What kind of strange?" Lisa frowned at her screen. "It's not natural. This is definitely artificial. Someone or something is sending this signal." Dr. Amanda Brooks, the ship's science officer, hurried over. She was young but brilliant, and she had joined this mission to study space phenomena. "Let me see those readings." The three of them stared at the data scrolling across the screen. The signal was unlike anything in Earth's databases. It came in patterns that repeated every few minutes, but the patterns were complex and mathematical. "This isn't random," Amanda said. "Look at these sequences. They're based on prime numbers, but they're arranged in a way I've never seen before." Tony Martinez, the ship's engineer, joined them. He was a practical man who could fix anything on the ship. "So what are you saying? That aliens are sending us math problems?" "Maybe," Amanda replied. "Or maybe they're trying to communicate. Mathematics is supposed to be universal, right? Any intelligent species should understand basic math." Jake made a decision. "Lisa, can you send a response?" "What should I send?" Amanda thought for a moment. "Start simple. Send back the first 10 prime numbers." Lisa's fingers moved over her controls. She transmitted the sequence: 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, 17, 19, 23, 29. They waited. For 20 minutes, nothing happened. Then the alien signal changed completely. "Captain," Lisa called out. "They're responding, but this is different. The signal is much stronger now and more complex." The new transmission filled their screens with data. Amanda worked frantically to decode it. "This is incredible. They're sending us mathematical concepts, but advanced ones: calculus, geometry, physics equations. They're testing us," Jake realized. "They sent us a simple pattern. We responded correctly, so now they're seeing how much we know." For the next several hours, the HFY Horizon exchanged increasingly complex mathematical concepts with the unknown aliens. Amanda was amazed at how quickly the aliens learned and adapted. They seemed to understand human mathematical notation almost immediately. Then something unexpected happened. The aliens began transmitting in English. "How is that possible?" Tony asked. "We never sent them our language." "They must have been listening to our radio transmissions," Amanda said. "Earth has been broadcasting radio and television signals for over a century. If they've been watching us, they could have learned our languages." The English was simple at first, just basic words and phrases. But within hours, the aliens were sending complete sentences. The message that appeared on their screen made everyone on the bridge fall silent. "Greetings, humans of Earth. We are pleased by your intelligence and quick responses. You have passed the first test faster than any species in our records. We invite you to meet us at these coordinates for formal contact." A set of stellar coordinates followed, along with detailed instructions for safe approach. Jake immediately contacted Earth Command. Admiral Kevin Stone's face appeared on the main screen after a few minutes of transmission delay. "You're certain this is legitimate?" the Admiral asked after Jake explained the situation. "As certain as we can be, sir. The mathematics they've shown us is real and advanced. They know things about physics that we're only beginning to understand." "Admiral." Stone was quiet for a long moment. "This changes everything. We're no longer alone in the universe, and they want to meet us." Back on Earth, the news created chaos. Scientists, politicians, and military leaders argued about how to respond. Some wanted to be cautious and study the aliens from a distance. Others believed this was humanity's greatest opportunity. Dr. Helen Carter, Earth's leading expert on diplomatic relations, was called to an emergency meeting. "If we're going to make contact, we need to do this right," she told the assembled leaders. First contact will determine humanity's relationship with these aliens for generations to come. Commander Steve Walsh, head of Earth's Space Defense Forces, had different concerns. "We don't know their intentions. This could be a trap." But Admiral Stone had already made his decision. "We're going to meet them. Captain Ryan Davis will command the UES Independence, our most advanced ship. Dr. Carter, you'll lead the diplomatic team." The UES Independence was humanity's newest and most sophisticated vessel. It had been designed for long-range exploration, equipped with the best technology Earth could produce. Captain Ryan Davis was considered one of humanity's finest officers. Calm under pressure and experienced in difficult situations. As the Independence prepared for humanity's first interstellar diplomatic mission. Nobody knew that their simple response to an alien signal had already caused massive upheaval across the galaxy. 40-7 light-years away. The Galactic Council was in emergency session. The signal that humans had answered so quickly was known as the Cognitive Assessment Protocol. It was designed to test new species that achieved space travel. Most civilizations took decades or even centuries to decode it properly. Humanity had solved it in hours. The council members, representing dozens of different alien species, were struggling to understand how this was possible. The humans had not only decoded the signal quickly, but their responses showed mathematical understanding that typically took species much longer to develop. "This is unprecedented," declared Ambassador Zethkar of the Vraxian Collective. "No species has ever responded this rapidly to first contact protocols." "Perhaps we underestimated them," suggested Council Speaker Valtar of the ancient Etherian race. "Our observations of Earth showed technological progress, but nothing that would indicate this level of cognitive adaptation." The Council had been watching Earth for over 2 centuries, studying human development from a safe distance. They had seen humans develop from a pre-industrial society to a spacefaring civilization in a remarkably short time. But even they were surprised by humanity's rapid response to contact. "The question now," said Zethkar, "is whether humanity is ready for integration into galactic society. Their rapid advancement could be either a great asset or a significant risk." As the UES Independence began its journey toward first contact, neither humans nor aliens fully understood how much this meeting would change both their civilizations. The signal from space had started as a simple mathematical sequence, but it would end up reshaping the entire galaxy. The UES Independence dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the coordinates the aliens had provided. Captain Ryan Davis stood on the bridge, looking at something that made his breath catch in his throat. A massive space station hung in orbit around a giant gas planet. The station was enormous, easily 10 times larger than anything humans had ever built. Its design was unlike anything from Earth, with flowing curves and strange materials that seemed to glow with their own light. "My God," whispered Dr. Helen Carter, standing beside him. She was Earth's top diplomat, chosen to lead humanity's first contact with alien civilization. "It's beautiful. And big enough to hold a small city," added Commander Steve Walsh, the mission's security chief. His job was to keep everyone safe, and he was already studying the station for potential threats. Dr. Craig Bennett, the team's xenobiologist, was recording everything. "The architecture suggests a species that thinks very differently from humans. Look at those curves and connections. This isn't just functional design, it's artistic." Dr. Rachel Kim, their linguist, was monitoring communication. Channels. Captain, I'm receiving a transmission in perfect English. Put it through, Ryan ordered. A calm, measured voice filled the bridge. Welcome, representatives of Earth. I am Ambassador Zethkar of the Vraxian Collective. We have been expecting you. Please approach Docking Bay 7. Your ship's systems will receive guidance signals. As the Independence moved closer to the station, the crew could see other ships docked at various points. Each vessel had a completely different design, suggesting multiple alien species were present. This isn't just first contact with one species, Helen realized. We're about to meet an entire community of alien civilizations. The docking process was surprisingly smooth. The station's technology interfaced perfectly with human systems, guiding the Independence into a bay that seemed designed to accommodate ships of various sizes and configurations. Ambassador Zethkar was waiting for them at the airlock. He was humanoid in basic shape, but clearly alien. His skin had a blue-green tint, his eyes were larger than human eyes, and he moved with a fluid grace that suggested a lighter gravity homeworld. Dr. Carter, he said, extending what appeared to be a greeting gesture. I am honored to meet humanity's diplomatic representative. Your species has already impressed us greatly. Helen stepped forward, trying to project confidence despite her nervousness. Ambassador Zethkar, on behalf of Earth and all humanity, I thank you for this opportunity. Please follow me. There are many who wish to meet you. As they walked through the station's corridors, the human team saw their first glimpses of true alien diversity. Beings of various shapes and sizes moved through the halls. Some were humanoid like Zethkar. Others were completely different. One species seemed to float rather than walk, while another moved on multiple legs like large insects. How many species are represented here? Dr. Bennett asked. 12 different civilizations have sent representatives to witness your introduction to the Galactic Council, Zethkar replied. First contact with a new species is always significant, but your rapid response to our signals has made this particularly noteworthy. They entered a large chamber where alien representatives were waiting. Helen felt overwhelmed as she realized. She was looking at beings from a dozen different worlds, each representing thousands of years of separate evolution. Zethkar began introductions. May the first present the human delegation from Earth. Dr. Helen Carter leads their diplomatic mission. One by one, the alien representatives greeted the humans. There was Mordak of the crystalline hegemony, whose body seemed to be made of living crystal. Talana of the flowing ones appeared to be partially liquid, shifting shape as she moved. Grextar of the Hive Collective spoke for his insect-like species through a series of clicks and whistles that were translated by the station's computers. We have been observing your species for some time, explained Zethkar after the introductions. The Galactic Council has protocols for monitoring developing civilizations. We watch, we study, but we do not interfere until a species reaches certain milestones. What kind of milestones? Helen asked. Interstellar travel capability, mathematical understanding beyond basic levels, and successful response to our cognitive assessment protocols. Most species require several centuries between achieving these milestones. Your species accomplished all three in a remarkably short time. Dr. Rachel Kim looked puzzled. You said you've been observing us for some time. How long? Approximately 200 of your years, Zethkar replied. We began monitoring Earth when your species first demonstrated large-scale technological development. We have watched your progress with great interest. Commander Steve Walsh stepped forward. What exactly did you observe? What do you know about? You? More than you might expect, said Marduk, his crystal body chiming as he spoke. We have monitored your communications, studied your cultural development, analyzed your technological progress. We understand your species better than most. Civilizations understand themselves when they achieve first contact. Dr. Helen Carter felt a chill. You've been watching everything? Our wars, our conflicts, our mistakes? Yes, Zethkar said simply. And also your achievements, your art, your capacity for growth and change. Every species has darkness and light. What matters is the overall trajectory of development. Talana flowed closer, her liquid form shifting. Your species shows unusual adaptability. Most civilizations develop along predictable paths. Humans seem to constantly surprise us with unexpected solutions to problems. Which brings us to the purpose of this meeting, Zethkar announced. The Galactic Council has developed standard procedures for integrating new species into our community. You will be given what we call the Standard Integration Assessment. What does that involve? Helen asked. A series of challenges designed to evaluate your species' readiness for council membership. These assessments test technological adaptation, diplomatic skills, resource management, conflict resolution, and creative problem-solving abilities. Grexstar clicked and whistled, and the translation followed. Most species require between 20 and 50 years to complete these assessments successfully. The current record is held by the Etherian race, who completed them in 23 years. Dr. Craig Bennett looked amazed. 23 years is the record? How long do we have? 1 standard galactic year, Zethkar replied. Approximately 1.3 Earth years. A human delegation exchanged glances. Helen could see concern on everyone's faces. And if we don't complete the assessments in time? Then you return to Earth and wait until your species has developed further. You may attempt the assessments again in 50 Earth years. But there's something unusual about your situation, added Mordok. Your rapid response to first contact suggests capabilities that may allow you to complete these assessments much faster than normal. Or, warned a new voice, you may fail spectacularly because you attempt to move too quickly. The humans turned to see a new alien entering the chamber. This being was tall and imposing, with features that seemed almost predatory. His presence made everyone in the room tense. This is War Commander Kalex of the Kellian Empire, Zethkar said carefully. His species believes in thorough evaluation of potential new council members. Kalex approached the humans with obvious suspicion. The Kellian Empire has concerns about your species. We have observed your tendency toward violence and rapid technological development. Such combinations can be dangerous to galactic stability. Commander Steve Walsh stepped forward, recognizing a military bearing in the alien. What specific concerns do you have? Your species achieved nuclear weapons and space travel within the same century. You fight wars while simultaneously reaching for the stars. Most species resolve their violent tendencies before achieving significant technological advancement. Dr. Helen Carter realized this was a crucial moment. War Commander Kalex, humanity has indeed struggled with conflict. But we've also shown the ability to learn, to change, to find peaceful solutions. Our presence here, choosing diplomacy over aggression, should demonstrate our intentions. Intentions can change, Kalex replied coldly. Actions over time reveal true nature, which is exactly what the assessments will determine. Zethkar interjected diplomatically. The challenges ahead will show us who humanity truly is. The meeting continued for several more hours, with various alien representatives explaining different aspects of the assessment process. The humans learned that they would be given facilities on the station and access to certain galactic technologies. To help them complete the challenges. As the formal session ended, Dr. Helen Carter felt the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. Humanity's future in the galaxy would depend on how well they performed in the coming year. No pressure, muttered Tony Martinez, who had been quietly observing everything. Actually, said Dr. Rachel Kim, I think we might surprise them. Humans have always been good at adapting quickly to new situations. Captain Ryan Davis gathered his team. Let's contact Earth and update Admiral Stone. Then we start preparing for these assessments. We have a lot of work ahead of us. As the humans were escorted to their quarters, none of them noticed the intense discussions beginning among the alien observers. The Galactic Council representatives were already debating whether Huma. Dr. Amanda Brooks stared at the first technical challenge in disbelief. The problem seemed impossible. Design a life support system that could maintain 7 different atmospheric compositions simultaneously, each required by different alien species, all in the same physical space. They want us to create air that's breathable by beings who evolved on completely different worlds, she explained to Tony Martinez. Some need high oxygen, others need methane. Some require specific pressure levels that would kill the others. Tony scratched his head. Traditional thinking says you can't do this. You'd need separate sealed environments for each species. That's probably what most aliens would do, Amanda said. But we don't have to think like them. They had been working on the technical assessments for 3 months. The Galactic Council had given them access to advanced materials and technologies, but the problem seemed designed to be unsolvable using conventional approaches. Meanwhile, Dr. Helen Carter was tackling the diplomatic challenges with Dr. Rachel Kim. They sat in front of a complex, holographic display showing the details of a trade dispute that had been ongoing for 30 years. Let me understand this, Helen said. The Vraxian Collective wants to trade their energy crystals for the Etherian food synthesis technology. The Etherians want Vraxian crystals plus manufacturing rights to Kellian weapons. The Kellians want Etherian technology, but refuse to give manufacturing rights to anyone. And the flowing ones control the shipping routes, but want guarantees that none of the traded materials will be used against them, Rachel added. It's like trying to solve a puzzle where every piece changes shape when you touch it. Previous diplomatic teams have tried to negotiate compromises, Helen mused. Everyone gives up something to get something else. But what if we approach this differently? Back in the technical section, Amanda and Tony were making breakthrough discoveries. Instead of trying to create separate atmospheric zones, they were developing a new approach. What if we create modular microenvironments? Amanda suggested personal atmosphere generators that each being carries with them. The room maintains a neutral baseline, and each individual's device creates their specific atmospheric needs in their immediate area. That's brilliant, Tony said. Instead of controlling the entire space, we control the individual's personal space. It's like wearing a custom atmosphere instead of trying to make the room perfect for everyone. They worked frantically to build a prototype. The device was small enough to wear like a piece of jewelry, but it could create a personal atmospheric bubble using advanced field generators. The technology was far beyond current Earth capabilities, but by combining human engineering principles with alien materials, they made it work. When they demonstrated the device to Ambassador Zethkar, his blue-green skin actually changed color. With surprise, "This is not how this problem is usually solved," he said. "How do other species usually handle it?" Amanda asked. They build complex facilities with multiple sealed chambers, connected by airlocks. The construction takes years and costs enormous resources. Your solution is portable, efficient, and could be mass-produced. Tony grinned. We humans are good at finding shortcuts. But the real test came when they demonstrated the device to representatives from all 7 species. Each alien put on the small device and immediately could breathe comfortably in the same room with the others. For the first time in the station's history, beings from 7 different worlds stood together in the same space, breathing easily. Remarkable, said Mordak, his crystalline form chiming with what sounded like approval. In 3 months, you have solved a problem that has limited interspecies cooperation for centuries. Dr. Helen Carter was having similar success with the diplomatic challenges. Instead of trying to negotiate compromises between the different species, she had identified the root cause of the trade dispute. The real problem isn't what everyone wants, she explained to the assembled alien negotiators. The problem is inefficiency in the distribution system. Everyone is fighting over limited resources, but the resources aren't actually limited. They're just not being distributed effectively. She presented her analysis to the group. The Vraxian crystals are abundant, but they're mined using methods that waste 60% of the material. The Etherian food synthesis technology is incredibly efficient, but it's only being used on 3 worlds. The Kellian weapons are effective, but they're manufactured, using processes that require too many rare materials. Your point? Asked the Kellian representative. My point is that if we improve the mining efficiency, expand the food synthesis technology, and redesign the weapons manufacturing process, everyone can have what they want without anyone giving up anything important. The aliens stared at her in silence. Finally, Zethkar spoke. You are suggesting systematic improvements rather than negotiated compromises. Exactly. Instead of dividing a small pie into smaller pieces, we make the pie bigger. Dr. Rachel Kim had been analyzing the cultural aspects of the problem. The interesting thing is that each species has developed technologies that solve their own problems very well, but they haven't considered how those technologies might be adapted to solve other species' problems. Over the following weeks, Helen's team worked with technical experts from each species to implement the improvements. The results were dramatic. Mining efficiency increased by 70%, food synthesis was expanded to 12 worlds, and weapons manufacturing costs dropped by half. This is unprecedented, admitted the Etherian representative. We have been treating this as a zero-sum negotiation for 30 years. You have made it positive-sum for everyone. But the real shock came when the Galactic Council presented the humans with the impossible scenario, a war game simulation that was designed to have no peaceful resolution. Captain Ryan Davis led the human team through the scenario briefing. The simulation involved a galaxy-wide resource crisis, with multiple species competing for dwindling energy sources. Traditional alliances were breaking down, and war seemed inevitable. The scenario has been run 847 times by different species, explained War Commander Kollex. Every attempt has ended in massive galactic conflict. The simulation is designed to test how new species handle impossible situations. What are we supposed to do? Asked Commander Steve Walsh. Minimize casualties and protect your own interests. Kollex replied, the simulation will show us how humans behave when faced with survival pressures. Captain Ryan Davis studied the scenario parameters with his team. Jake Morrison, who had been brought in as a tactical advisor, looked at the resource distribution charts. Lisa Grant analyzed the communication patterns between different species. This is interesting, Lisa said. Look at these energy consumption patterns. Some species are using 10 times more energy than they actually need for their basic requirements. And look at this, Jake added. The scarce resources aren't actually scarce. They're just not being shared efficiently between sectors. Dr. Nicole Parker, who had joined the team as a cultural analyst, made another observation. The species in this simulation are all acting according to their traditional patterns. But what if those patterns are part of the problem? Captain Davis had an idea. What if we don't play the game the way it's designed to be played? Instead of choosing sides or trying to win resources for humanity, the human team approached the simulation from a completely different angle. They analyzed why the energy crisis was happening in the first place. The problem isn't that there's not enough energy, Ryan explained to the alien observers. The problem is that the energy distribution system is based on political boundaries instead of efficiency principles. They proposed a solution that reorganized energy distribution based on logical efficiency rather than traditional territorial claims. Species with abundant energy sources would trade excess capacity to species with high energy needs, creating a galaxy-wide energy network. But this requires unprecedented cooperation, protested one of the alien advisors. Species would have to trust each other with their energy security. Yes, Ryan agreed. But they would also have guaranteed energy access and shared infrastructure protection. Everyone would be stronger and more secure than they are now. The human team didn't just solve the simulation. They redesigned the entire scenario to eliminate the underlying causes of conflict. When they presented their solution, the alien observers fell silent. Finally, Kalex spoke. "This is not how the simulation is supposed to work." "We know," Ryan replied, "but this is how it could work." Zeth-Kar approached the human team. "You have not simply passed these assessments. You have changed them. Your solutions are creating new possibilities that the Council has never considered. Is that good or bad?" Helen asked. "We are not certain," Zeth-Kar admitted. "Your species thinks in ways that are foreign to us. This could be extremely beneficial or extremely dangerous." As news of humanity's progress spread through the station, the alien representatives began having urgent discussions. The humans were not just completing the assessments. They were revolutionizing them. Dr. Amanda Brooks found herself in demand, as alien engineers wanted to learn her adaptation techniques. Tony Martinez was teaching efficiency principles to beings who had been building things the same way for thousands of years. "I think we're changing more than just the assessments." The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike anything in recorded history. Representatives from 47 different species filled the great chamber, their various forms creating a strange and beautiful display of galactic diversity. But today, the usual calm of council proceedings was replaced by heated debate. Council Speaker Valtar of the ancient Etherian race called for order. His species had been part of the council for over 10,000 years, and he had never seen such controversy over a new species evaluation. "The humans have completed all major assessments in 6 months," he announced to the assembly. "This is unprecedented in council history." War Commander Kalex of the Kellyan Empire stood to speak. His imposing form commanded attention from the other delegates. "Speaker Valtar, the issue is not that they completed the assessments quickly. The issue is how they completed them. These humans have not followed established protocols. They have changed the very nature of the challenges." Ambassador Zeth-Kar rose to respond. "War Commander, with respect, the humans found better solutions to problems we had accepted as unsolvable. Is innovation not something we should value?" "Innovation can be dangerous," Kalex replied sharply. "Rapid change destabilizes established systems. The humans show concerning patterns of accelerated development and unpredictable behavior." Mordak of the crystalline hegemony chimed in, his crystal body creating harmonic tones as he spoke. "But consider the practical benefits. The atmospheric adaptation technology alone will revolutionize interspecies cooperation. My people have been isolated on our high-pressure worlds for millennia. Now we can work directly with species we could never approach before." Talana of the Flowing Ones shifted her liquid form as she joined the debate. "The humans have solved the Vraxian trade dispute that had been deadlocked for 30 years. They have shown diplomatic skills that complement their technical abilities." "That is precisely the problem," interjected Representative Thokmarov. "The Hive Collective." His insect-like form clicked and whistled as the translation system converted his words. "They excel in every area we test. No species has ever shown such broad competence. It suggests hidden capabilities we do not understand." Council Speaker Valtar attempted to restore order as the debate grew more intense. "Perhaps we should hear from the assessment observers. Zeth-Kar, present your detailed report." A star activated a holographic display showing human performance across all assessment categories. The data is remarkable. In technological adaptation, humans scored 94%. In diplomatic flexibility, 91%. In resource management, 89%. In conflict resolution, 96%. In creative problem solving, they exceeded our measurement scale. How is that possible? Asked Representative Quindle of the Spiral Confederation. They approach problems differently than any species we have encountered, Zethkar explained. Most species develop specialized solutions for specific problems. Humans develop adaptable solutions that work across multiple scenarios. Dr. Craig Bennett had been quietly observing the council session from the human delegation area. As a xenobiologist, he found the aliens' reactions fascinating. He turned to Captain Ryan Davis and whispered, "They're afraid of us." "What do you mean?" Ryan asked. "Look at their body language, their debate patterns. We've done everything they asked, exceeded every expectation, but instead of being pleased, they're worried. We've succeeded too well." The debate continued as various species voiced their concerns and support. The Etherian delegation argued that humanity represented a valuable addition to galactic civilization. The Kellian Empire insisted that humans were too unpredictable and potentially dangerous. Smaller species were divided, some excited by the possibilities humans offered, others worried about being overshadowed. "There is another issue we must address," announced a new voice. The chamber fell silent as ancient counselor Y.T. Ajara of the Void Watchers spoke. Her species rarely participated in council debates, observing from the shadows for thousands of years. "The humans have not simply passed our assessments," she continued in her ethereal voice. "They have demonstrated capabilities that suggest their civilization develops along fundamentally different patterns than our own." Representative Collex leaned forward. "Explain. Most species develop in linear progression. They master one technology, then move to the next. They solve one social problem, then address another. Humans appear to develop multiple capabilities simultaneously, creating synergistic effects we have not observed before." The chamber erupted in discussion. Many council members had never heard the Void Watchers express such detailed analysis of any species. "What are the implications?" asked Speaker Veltar. "Uncertain," Ithara replied. "The humans could become our greatest allies or our most challenging problem. Their rapid adaptation makes both outcomes possible." Meanwhile, back on the station, the human team was unaware of the intense council debate. They had received news that created excitement and concern in equal measure. "A second Earth ship is arriving?" Dr. Helen Carter asked Captain Ryan Davis. "Hey, U.S. Constitution, commanded by Captain Beth Rodriguez. Admiral Stone is sending additional support personnel." Dr. Amanda Brooks looked worried. "Won't that make the aliens more nervous about our rapid expansion?" "Probably," Ryan admitted. "But Earth Command thinks we need more expertise to handle the additional projects the aliens have requested." The additional projects were the result of human success with the original assessments. Various alien species had approached the human team asking for help with problems their own civilizations had been unable to solve. Mike Thompson, an industrial engineer on the Constitution, brought specialized knowledge in large-scale manufacturing. Dr. Karen Lewis was a systems analyst who could optimize complex processes. Commander Alex Turner was a strategic planner with experience in multi-organization coordination. "The thing is," explained Tony Martinez to the new arrivals, "we're not just solving the problems they give us anymore. We're solving problems they didn't even know they had." The arrival of the Constitution and its crew demonstrated another aspect of human capability that concerned the aliens: the speed of human organizational scaling. What had started as a single-ship diplomatic mission had become a multi-ship operation. In less than a year, Ambassador Zithkar met with the expanded human delegation. "Your Earth Command works very efficiently," he observed. "When we find something important, we commit resources quickly," Captain Beth Rodriguez replied. "Waiting for perfect information usually means missing opportunities. That approach can also lead to serious mistakes," Zethkar warned. "True," Beth agreed, "but not taking action when action is needed leads to different kinds of mistakes. We'd rather make mistakes by trying than mistakes by not trying." This conversation, recorded by Council monitoring systems, would later become part of the debate about human nature and decision-making. Patterns. Dr. Karen Lewis had begun analyzing the efficiency of Council operations and made a disturbing discovery. "Captain Davis, I think you need to see this." She presented her findings to the human leadership team. "The Council's decision-making process is incredibly slow. Simple decisions take years to implement. Complex decisions can take decades. That explains some of the problems we've been asked to solve," Dr. Amanda Brooks realized. "These issues have been festering for so long because the Council system can't respond quickly to changing conditions." Commander Alex Turner studied Karen's analysis. "If we can show them more efficient organizational methods, we could help the entire galactic community become more effective. Or," warned Commander Steve Walsh, "we could threaten the stability of a system that has worked for thousands of years." The human team faced a crucial decision. They could focus on completing their assessments according to original parameters, or they could continue developing solutions that addressed broader systemic issues in galactic civilization. Dr. Helen Carter called a team meeting. "We need to be careful. Our success is making some of the aliens nervous. We don't want to appear threatening, but we also can't pretend to be less capable than we are," Captain Ryan Davis pointed out. "They asked us to demonstrate our abilities. We're doing exactly what they requested. The question is whether they're ready for what they asked for," observed Dr. Nicole Parker. Unknown to the humans, this same question was being debated intensely in the Council chambers. Some species saw humanity's rapid progress as proof of great potential. Others saw it as evidence of dangerous unpredictability. War Commander Collex presented his faction's concerns to the full Council. "The humans show patterns that concern my military analysts. They advance too quickly, adapt too easily, and show no respect for established boundaries or limitations. Is that not exactly what we need?" countered Zethkar. "For centuries, the Council has struggled with problems that require fresh thinking and rapid adaptation. Change must be controlled and gradual," Collex insisted. "The humans represent chaos disguised as progress." Representative Mordach's crystalline form chimed with disagreement. "War Commander, you speak of chaos, but the humans have brought only solutions. They have solved problems that have plagued us for generations. Solutions that no one asked for," Collex replied. "They were given specific assessments. Instead, they have redesigned our entire approach to interspecies cooperation." Ancient Cons. Council Speaker Veltar stood before the assembled representatives of 47 galactic civilizations. In his 10,000 years of life, he had never faced a decision quite like this one. The humans waited in a separate chamber, unaware that their fate was being decided in the most contentious council session in recorded history. "We have debated for 3 days," Veltar announced. "The time has come for a decision about humanity's place in our community." The chamber was divided into clear factions. The progressive species, led by the Vraxian Collective and supported by the crystalline hegemony, believed humanity represented an unprecedented opportunity. The conservative faction, dominated by the Kellian Empire and backed by several older civilizations, saw humans as a destabilizing force. War Commander Collex rose first to present the conservative position. "Honored Speaker, the evidence is clear. Humanity develops too rapidly, changes too quickly, and shows no respect for established protocols. They have been among us for 6 months and already seek to reorganize our entire civilization. They have also solved problems we could not solve in centuries, countered Ambassador Zethkar. Their innovations have improved life for species across the galaxy. Temporary improvements, Kalex argued, but at what cost? They disrupt stability that has maintained peace for millennia. Change without control leads to chaos. Ancient Counselor. Ithara emerged from the shadows where her people traditionally observed. When the Void Watchers spoke, everyone listened. War Commander Kalex speaks of stability, but what he describes is stagnation. The Council has become so focused on maintaining order that we have stopped growing. The chamber fell silent. Criticism of Council operations was extremely rare, especially from a species as respected as the Void Watchers. Continue, Ancient Counselor, Speaker Valtar requested. For thousands of years, we have followed the same procedures, used the same technologies, thought the same thoughts. We have achieved peace through predictability. But predictability without growth is not life. It is merely existence. Representative Mordok's crystalline form chimed in agreement. The humans have shown us possibilities we had forgotten existed. They reminded us that problems we accepted as permanent could actually be solved. And what happens when they decide? Our governments are inefficient? Demanded Representative Thokmar. When they conclude our social systems need improvement? Where does the reforming impulse end? Perhaps, suggested Talana of the Flowing Ones, her liquid form shifting thoughtfully, we should ask them. This suggestion created another wave of debate. Bringing the humans into council deliberations was unprecedented. New species traditionally waited outside while their fate was decided. The humans have already broken most of our precedents, observed Representative Quindel. Perhaps it is time to break another. Speaker Veltar made a decision that would be remembered for millennia. Summon the human delegation. Captain Ryan Davis led the human team into the great council chamber. Dr. Helen Carter walked beside him, followed by the other key members of their mission. The sight of 47 different alien species in heated debate was overwhelming. Humans of Earth, Speaker Veltar addressed them formally. Your presence here represents an unusual situation. The Council is divided about your future role in galactic civilization. War Commander Kalex stepped forward aggressively. Captain Davis, your species shows concerning patterns of rapid development and systematic change. How do we know you will not attempt to reform our entire civilization according to your preferences? Ryan exchanged glances with Helen before responding. War Commander, we came here to learn about galactic civilization, not to change it. But when we see problems we can solve, it's difficult for us to ignore them. That attitude is exactly what concerns us. Kalex replied. Dr. Helen Carter spoke up. May I ask a question? How long has the trade dispute we solved been ongoing? 30 years, admitted Zethkar. And the atmospheric compatibility problem? Centuries, replied Mordok. These weren't problems you were actively working on, Helen observed. They were problems you had accepted as unsolvable. We didn't interfere with your ongoing efforts. We addressed issues that had been abandoned. Dr. Amanda Brooks added, we understand the concern about rapid change. But consider this. We're offering solutions, not demanding that you accept them. You can choose which innovations to adopt and which to reject. Ancient Counselor Ithara moved closer to the human delegation. An interesting perspective. You see yourselves as offering options rather than imposing changes. Exactly, confirmed Captain Ryan Davis. Our goal is to be helpful partners, not disruptive forces. War Commander Kalex was not satisfied. But your very presence is disruptive. You complete in months what takes other species decades. You solve problems we have lived with for centuries. How do we integrate such rapid development with our stable systems? Dr. Nicole Parker, who had been studying galactic social patterns, stepped forward. War Commander, may I suggest that the problem isn't our speed of development, but your assumption. That development must be slow? The chamber buzzed with shocked murmurs. No new species had ever questioned fundamental council assumptions so directly. Explain, demanded Collex. Most of your species developed on stable worlds with predictable environments, Ecole said. You had the luxury of developing slowly and carefully. Earth is different. We evolved on a world of constant change, ice ages, volcanic eruptions, climate shifts, asteroid impacts. Species that couldn't adapt quickly didn't survive. You are saying your rapid development is evolutionary necessity? Asked Ithara with obvious interest. Partly, yes, but also cultural choice. Humans learned to value flexibility and innovation because rigidity meant extinction. We don't change things because we're destructive. We change things because we've learned that adaptation equals survival. Speaker Veltar had been listening carefully to the exchange. The question before us is whether galactic civilization is ready for such adaptation. With respect, Speaker, said Dr. Helen Carter, perhaps the question is whether galactic civilization can afford not to adapt. You've told us about problems that have existed for centuries. Wars that repeat the same patterns. Resources wasted on inefficient systems. Species isolated by technological limitations. These problems exist because you have achieved stability at the cost of growth, added Captain Ryan Davis. We're not suggesting you abandon stability. We're suggesting you can have both stability and progress. The debate continued for hours, with various council members questioning the humans about their intentions, capabilities, and long-term goals. Through it all, the human delegation remained calm and thoughtful, addressing each concern directly. Finally, Speaker Veltar called for the decision. The Council will vote on humanity's status. But first, we must address the unprecedented nature of this situation. He turned to face the human delegation. Never before has a species completed our assessments so rapidly or so thoroughly. Your performance has exceeded our measurement capabilities in several categories. This presents us with an unprecedented choice. We can offer you standard council membership, beginning with observer status and gradually increasing your participation over several centuries. This is our normal procedure. Or, asked Captain Ryan Davis, or we can acknowledge that normal procedures do not apply to your species. We can offer immediate full membership with voting rights and access to all council technologies and resources. The chamber erupted in shocked discussion. Immediate full membership was unheard of. However, Veltar continued, such membership would come with unprecedented responsibilities. You would serve as the Council's rapid response team for technological and diplomatic crises. You would be called upon to address problems that other species have been unable to solve. Dr. Helen Carter looked at her team. This was far more than they had expected. There is one more condition, added War Commander Collex. If you accept full membership, you must also accept Council oversight of your development. Your rapid advancement requires monitoring to ensure galactic stability. What kind of oversight? Ryan asked. Regular reporting on technological developments, advance notice of major policy changes, and Council input on projects that could affect multiple species. Captain Ryan Davis requested time to consult with Earth Command. After 3 hours of awe, quantum communication with Admiral Kevin Stone, and Earth's leadership, the human delegation had their answer. Speaker Veltar, honored council members, Ryan announced. Earth accepts full membership in the Galactic Council, along with all the responsibilities and oversight that entails. The vote was close, 26 species in favor, 18 opposed, 3 abstaining. But it was enough. As the ceremonial signing took place, Captain Beth Rodriguez arrived from the Constitution with news that would shock the Council even further. Captain Davis, Admiral Stone sends his congratulations and instructions for our next mission. What mission? We're to investigate ancient ruins in the galactic core. Apparently, there are archaeological mysteries there that have puzzled Council scientists for thousands of years. Ambassador Zethkar overheard this exchange. The progenitor. Ruins? Those have been studied by our best researchers for millennia. Well, said Dr. Amanda Brooks with a smile, they haven't been studied by human researchers. As the
Galactic Union had existed for over 5,000 years. In this time, thousands of different alien species had joined together to explore the stars. They traded with each other, shared knowledge, and lived mostly in peace. Among the many stories told across the galaxy, one tale kept appearing. It was the legend of a species called humans. Most aliens thought humans were just made-up creatures from ancient times. Some believed they had once been real, but had died out long ago. Either way, no one had ever found proof that humans actually existed. Commander Zaxlith did not care much for old stories. He was a serious scientist who believed in facts and evidence. As the leader of the Union science vessel Curiosity, his job was to map unexplored regions of space and collect data. He had blue skin, 4 arms, and eyes that could see things most species couldn't. His people, the Vorax, were known for their careful, patient approach to science. "Commander, we've found something strange," said First Officer Trill. She pointed to the ship's main screen. "This small planet shows energy readings that don't match any natural pattern." Zaxlith moved closer to examine the data. The planet was small, rocky, and seemed ordinary at first glance. But deep scans showed something artificial beneath its surface, something that was still producing power after what must have been thousands of years. "Prepare a landing team," Zaxlith ordered. "Full protective gear and scanning equipment." 6 hours later, Zaxlith stood at the entrance of an enormous underground facility. The door had opened easily once their computers decoded its simple locking system. The air inside was clean and breathable, maintained by ancient systems that somehow still worked perfectly. "This technology is at least 10,000 years old," said Science Officer Vex. He waved his scanner over the smooth metal walls. "Yet everything functions as if it were built yesterday." They walked down long hallways lit by soft white lights that turned on as they approached. The team took careful notes and samples but found no clues about who had built this place or why. Then they reached the central chamber. "By the stars," whispered Trill. The room was vast, larger than the Curiosity itself, and filling the space were thousands of transparent pods, each containing what appeared to be a sleeping person. "Are they alive?" asked Vex. Zaxlith approached the nearest pod and wiped dust from its surface. Inside was a being with pale skin and dark hair. It looked peaceful, as if in a deep sleep. A small screen on the pod displayed unfamiliar symbols and what appeared to be vital signs, slow but steady. "I believe," said Zaxlith slowly, "we have just found our first human." The pod had a name displayed, Lucy Harris. The being inside was female according to the medical scans. She was neither fully alive nor dead, but in some kind of suspended animation unlike anything in Union medical records. What troubled Zaxlith most was what surrounded the pods. Each sleeping human was kept with what clearly appeared to be weapons. Some pods were surrounded by data crystals containing what looked like military codes. Others had displays showing combat simulations. Some had physical weapons, metal objects, designed to hurt or kill. "This isn't a shelter," Zaxlith realized. "It's an army in storage." The team spent days cataloging the facility. They found over 3,000 humans in suspended animation. Each pod contained detailed records about the human inside, their skills, training, and combat specialties. Some were pilots, others were soldiers, engineers, or tactical experts. All had been modified in some way, with implants and genetic adjustments that suggested they had been specifically designed for warfare. When Zaxlith reported his findings to the Union Council, debate raged for weeks. Some wanted to destroy the facility immediately. Others argued that awakening and studying one human could provide valuable scientific knowledge. In the end, curiosity won out over caution. Union Counsel Peter Riggs, an elderly reptilian from the Saurian system, gave the final approval. Wake one human. Just one. Study it carefully under maximum security. Learn what we can about this lost species. Senior researcher Alan Powell was chosen to lead the awakening procedure. He was a slender, gray-skinned alien with 6 fingers on each hand and calm, steady nerves. He had specialized in ancient technology for over 50 years. The process should take approximately 12 hours, Powell explained to the observation team. These stasis systems are complex. We must proceed with extreme caution. The team selected Pod 1372, Lucy Harris. Her records indicated she was a communications specialist with combat training but not a frontline soldier. They hoped this would make her less dangerous than some of the others. Powell connected the pod to their equipment and began the careful process of reversing the stasis field. Monitors showed the human's body temperature slowly rising, her brain activity increasing bit by bit. Vital signs stable, reported Medical Officer Dreen. Brain patterns becoming more active. This is proceeding much faster than expected. Powell frowned. That's impossible. The calculations indicated. Lucy Harris opened her eyes. Everyone froze. According to their predictions, she shouldn't have regained consciousness for at least another 10 hours. Yet there she was, eyes open, fully alert. In one smooth motion, she sat up. Her gaze swept across the room, taking in the aliens, the equipment, her surroundings. Her face showed no fear, no confusion, only cool assessment. Then she spoke. Her words came out in perfect galactic standard, the common language of the Union, a language that hadn't existed when she entered stasis. Status report on the Rigelian conflict. How many cycles has it been? Powell stepped forward cautiously. I'm senior researcher Alan Powell. The Rigelian conflict is not in our historical records. Based on dating of this facility, you have been in stasis for approximately 10,000 years. Lucy Harris didn't seem surprised. She simply nodded, as if this information was merely another data point to process. Then we've been betrayed, she said. Her voice remained calm, but her eyes hardened. Protocol dictates we should have been awakened once the conflict ended or if new threats emerged. She looked directly at Powell. Someone wanted us to stay asleep forever. Why did you wake me now? Before Powell could answer, an alarm sounded. One of the junior researchers rushed in. Sir, we're receiving an emergency transmission from the research vessel Diligence. They found another human facility in Sector 7, and they've awakened someone too. Lucy Harris smiled. It wasn't a friendly expression. And so it begins again, she said softly. The news spread quickly through the Galactic Union. Another human facility had been found, and another human had been awakened. This second human was a male called Frank Carter. The science team on the research vessel Diligence had not planned to wake him. They had simply been exploring the facility when someone accidentally triggered the revival process. Unlike Lucy Harris, Frank Carter did not wake calmly. Security footage showed him bursting from his pod, quickly taking down 3 researchers with precise moves, and locking himself in the ship's communications room. By the time Union security forces broke in, he had already sent out a signal that was now spreading across the stars. Back at the first facility, Lucy Harris sat in a comfortable but secure room. 2 guards stood outside her door. They weren't needed. She had made no attempt to escape or cause trouble. She answered questions politely and asked for reading materials to learn about the current state of the galaxy. Senior researcher Alan Powell entered her room carrying a data. He had spent the last 3 days talking with Lucy, trying to understand who she was and where she came from. Good morning, Lucy, Powell said. I hope you slept well. Lucy smiled. I've had enough sleep to last several lifetimes, don't you think? Powell nodded and sat down across from her. We've received word about the other human who was awakened. His name is Frank Carter. Does that name mean anything to you? Lucy's face gave nothing away. There were over 3 million of us placed in stasis facilities throughout this region of space. I didn't know all of them personally. 3 million? Powell's eyes widened. We've only found 2 facilities so far. You'll find more, Lucy said simply. Now that Frank has activated the signal. Powell leaned forward. What signal? What does it do? Lucy looked at him for a long moment as if deciding how much to say. It's a wake-up call. All facilities are programmed to begin revival procedures when they receive it. Powell felt a chill run down his spine. You mean all the humans in all the facilities will wake up? Yes, it's protocol. If one facility determines there's a threat serious enough to wake its occupants, all facilities must be activated. Lucy tilted her head. Why did you wake me, Alan Powell? What threat faces the galaxy? Powell struggled to find words. There is no threat. We found your facility during routine exploration. We woke you out of scientific curiosity to learn about your species. For the first time, Lucy showed real emotion, disappointment mixed with anger. You disturbed our sleep for curiosity? Do you have any idea what you've done? Before Powell could respond, his communication device buzzed. It was Commander Zaxalith. Powell, get to the command center immediately. We're picking up activation signals from at least 7 more human facilities. Powell rushed to the command center, where large screens showed a map of the sector. 8 points of light pulsed on the map. 8 human facilities reporting activation sequences. How many humans are waking up? Zaxalith asked. Powell swallowed hard. Lucy says there were 3 million humans placed in stasis throughout this region. The room fell silent. The Union had already seen what one human could do. Frank Carter had taken control of a research vessel single-handedly within hours of waking up. We need to contact Union headquarters, Zaxalith said finally. This is beyond our authority now. 2 days later, Admiral Samantha Blake arrived with a fleet of 10 Union ships. She was a tall, stern alien with dark purple skin and white hair. As the Union's highest-ranking military officer, she had dealt with many crises during her long career. But nothing like this. Report, she ordered as soon as she stepped onto the command deck. Zaxalith pointed to the map, which now showed 23 active human facilities. The activation signals are spreading faster than we can track them. We estimate over 5,000 humans are now awake. Have they shown hostile intent? Blake asked. Not directly, Powell answered. But 7 Union research vessels have been commandeered. The humans simply took control and locked out the original crews. Blake frowned. Took control how? Through force? Sometimes. But in most cases, they simply accessed the ship's systems and locked everyone out. They seem to understand our technology instantly, despite never having seen it before. Blake turned to a nervous-looking official in civilian clothes. Mr. Riggs, the Council sent you to establish diplomatic contact. How is that going? Union. Counsel Peter Riggs cleared his throat. We've spoken with several awakened humans. They all say the same thing. They were preserved as a military force to fight against something called the Rigelian Empire. When we tell them we have no record of such an empire, they assume it either no longer exists or is hiding. And do these Rigelians exist? Blake asked. We've found no evidence of them in any historical record, Zaxalith said. They might be extinct, or they might be a threat the humans invented to justify their military preparations. Blake was silent, for a moment, thinking. I want to speak with the first human, this Lucy Harris. Lucy was brought to the command center. She walked in calmly, looking at each alien with curious eyes. When she saw Admiral Blake, she straightened her posture slightly, recognizing authority. Lucy Harris, I am Admiral Samantha Blake of the Galactic Union Defense Force. I understand you were a communications specialist. Lucy nodded. Yes, Admiral, though all of us received combat training as well. Why? Blake asked directly. Why were you all preserved? What was your purpose? Lucy's expression remained neutral. To protect humanity and its allies from the Rigelian threat. When the war reached a stalemate, our leaders decided to place us in strategic positions throughout the galaxy. If the Rigelians ever broke the treaty or if new threats emerged, we would be awakened to respond. There is no record of humans or Rigelians in our histories, Blake said. And now thousands of your kind are waking up, taking our ships and sending signals we cannot decode. How do you expect us to respond? Lucy met her gaze steadily. With caution, Admiral. We were not designed to live in peace. As if to emphasize her point, alarms suddenly blared. A communications officer called, "Out, Admiral! We're receiving reports from Sector 15. A group of awakened humans have taken control of the Union military outpost there." On the main screen, images appeared showing human soldiers moving with incredible speed and coordination. They weren't killing anyone, but they were efficiently disabling all resistance and securing key positions. "You see?" Lucy said quietly. "It's already too late to stop it. The gods of war are waking up." 1 week after the first human awakened, the Galactic Union called an emergency meeting. Representatives from all member species gathered on the central planet of New Harmony. The great meeting hall was filled with nervous voices and worried faces. At the front of the hall, Admiral Samantha Blake stood next to Union Council Leader Vorn, a wise old alien with gray skin and 6 eyes. They watched as the last representatives took their seats. "The situation is moving quickly," Blake said to the assembled crowd. Her voice was calm but serious. "As of this morning, we have confirmed 57 human facilities are active. We estimate over 20,000 humans are now awake." Worried whispers filled the room. A representative from the Tulaxian system stood up. "What do these humans want? Have they made any demands?" Blake shook her head. "They have not made formal demands, but they have taken control of 32 Union vessels and 14 space stations. They say they are securing strategic positions to defend against potential threats." "What threats?" called another representative. "We have lived in peace for centuries." Council Leader Vorn raised his hands for quiet. "We have arranged a meeting with a human leader. Perhaps he can explain their intentions better than we can." The doors at the back of the hall opened. A human, male, walked in, flanked by 2 other humans. He wore a simple black uniform with no markings or decorations. His face was serious, his movements precise and controlled. "This is Fleet Commander Rick Owens," Blake announced. "He has agreed to speak on behalf of the awakened humans." Rick Owens walked to the center of the hall and looked around at the gathered aliens. His eyes showed no fear, no uncertainty, only calm assessment. "Thank you for this opportunity," he said. His voice carried easily through the large room. "I understand there is concern about our activities. That is reasonable, but you must understand what we are and why we exist." He paused, making eye contact with several representatives. "We are not refugees. We are not explorers or colonists. We are weapons, created by humanity at a time of great crisis. We were placed throughout the galaxy as a defensive measure, a final option if all else failed." A representative shouted, "Against what enemy? This Rigelian empire we can find no record of?" Rick nodded. "Yes. The Rigelians were a highly advanced species that threatened not just humanity but all life in this sector of the galaxy. The war between humans and Rigelians lasted for over a century. Eventually, we fought them to a standstill and negotiated a treaty." "Where is your proof?" asked another representative. "Our historical records go back thousands of years. There is no mention of this great war or these Rigelians." Rick's expression didn't change. "That is concerning. It suggests either your records are incomplete, or someone has deliberately removed this information. Either way, if we have been awakened, it means the failsafe was triggered. The threat has returned." Council Leader Vorn stepped forward. "Commander Owens, I must be clear. You were not awakened because of any threat. The first facility was discovered by chance. The first human was awakened out of scientific curiosity. The second awakening was an accident. There is no enemy." Rick looked at Vorn for a long moment. Then he shook his head slightly. "I find that hard to believe. Our stasis protocols were designed to prevent accidental awakening. And even if what you say is true, The fact remains that we are awake now. We must complete our mission." "What mission?" Blake asked sharply. "To secure this sector against all threats, whether they are Rigelian or something else." Rick's voice grew firmer. "We have analyzed your union's defensive capabilities. They are inadequate. Your borders are poorly protected. Your response times to incursions are too slow. Your weapons technology is outdated." The hall erupted in angry shouts. Blake had to call for order several times before the noise died. "Down. You have no right to judge our defenses," she said to Rick. "The Union has maintained peace for thousands of years." "Peace makes people soft," Rick replied. "We are not soft. We were created for war, and we will not stand by while potential threats gather at your borders." With that, he turned and walked out of the hall, his human companions following close behind. After the meeting, Blake gathered with her top officers in a secure room. The mood was grim. "They're preparing for war," said Commander Zaxelith. "But against whom? There are no major threats to the Union at present. If they can't find an enemy, they might create one," Blake said worriedly. "We need to understand what's driving them." Senior researcher Alan Powell spoke up. "I've been studying the data from the human facilities. There's something strange about their programming." "What do you mean, programming?" asked Blake. "They're biological beings, not machines." "Yes and no," Powell replied. "The humans in stasis have been modified. They have neural implants that connect directly to their weapons and ships. They have genetic adjustments that enhance their strength, speed, and reflexes. And they have psychological conditioning that makes them extraordinarily focused on military objectives." "They're living weapons," Zaxelith said quietly. "Exactly," Powell nodded. "And weapons need to be used. It's what they're made for." Blake's face grew even, more serious. "How do we stop 20,000 living weapons who believe they have a mission to complete?" "I'm not sure we can," Powell admitted. "But there's one human who might help us. Lucy Harris has been more cooperative than the others. She seems troubled by what's happening." Blake thought for a moment. "Bring her here. Perhaps she can help us understand what these humans really want." Meanwhile, on the other side of the sector, human forces were growing stronger by the day. More stasis facilities activated, releasing more soldiers, pilots, and commanders. Human-controlled ships moved in precise formations, securing key positions throughout Union space. On the bridge of the captured Union vessel Discovery, now renamed Vigilant, Rick Owens studied star maps with his officers. "Phase 1 is complete," said his second-in-command, a woman named Diane Miller. "We have secure positions in all major systems. What are your orders for Phase 2? Rick looked at the map showing Union territory. "Prepare the fleet. We'll begin the sweep for Rigelian outposts in 48 hours. "And if we find none?" Diane asked carefully. Rick's eyes were cold. "Then we expand the search. The enemy is out there. We will find them. It's what we were made for." Union Intelligence Officer Greg Mason had not slept properly in days. He was not a field agent or a soldier. He was a researcher, someone who spent his time looking through old records and finding patterns. Now he was searching for anything that might explain the humans and their mysterious enemies. Greg was a small green-skinned alien with large eyes and delicate fingers perfect for handling ancient data crystals. He had been given special access to the Union's oldest archives, records that went back to the very founding of the Galactic Union. Most people thought these archives were complete, but Greg knew better. There were gaps in the records, periods, where information was missing or clearly edited. These gaps had never seemed important before. Now they might be the key to understanding the human crisis. "Computer, search again for any reference to defenders between years 30,000 and 40,000 of the old calendar," Greg said, rubbing his tired eyes. The computer hummed. "Reference found. Historical text 7842B, Section 12. Greg sat up straight. This was new. He had run this search before and found nothing. "Display text," he ordered. Words appeared on his screen, faded and partly damaged but still readable. The defenders came when all hope was lost. They were not like any species we had seen before. They stood on two legs and had remarkable adaptability. In battle, they moved with impossible speed and precision. Within one cycle, they had pushed back the devourers from our homeworld. Within 3 cycles, our sector was safe again. We offered them alliance, trade, even worship. They refused all offers and disappeared back into the darkness between stars. Some say they were not natural beings, but weapons given life and purpose. Greg read the passage again and again. The timing matched. Approximately 12,000 years ago, during one of the major gaps in Union records. The description of defenders matched humans perfectly. He ran more searches, finding other fragments from different species, all telling similar stories. A mysterious race of warriors appearing in times of great danger, fighting with extraordinary skill, then vanishing once the threat was defeated. They weren't just soldiers, Greg whispered to himself. They were saviors. He gathered his findings and rushed to Admiral Blake's command center, where Lucy Harris was being questioned. When Greg arrived, Lucy was sitting calmly at a table, answering Admiral Blake's questions with short, precise answers. She looked up when Greg entered, her eyes curious. "I'm sorry to interrupt," Greg said breathlessly, "but I've found something important." He explained his discoveries, showing the fragments of text on his datapad. As he spoke, Lucy's expression changed from polite interest to genuine shock. "You found records of us," she said quietly. "I didn't think any survived." Blake looked sharply at Lucy. "You knew about this? About humans being called defenders?" Lucy nodded slowly. "Yes. That was one of our designations. Different species. Called us different things. Some called us guardians. Others called us the hand of fate. A few called us death's children." "Then it's true?" Greg asked eagerly. "Humans fought to protect other species?" "Of course," Lucy said, looking confused. "That was our purpose, to defend life in this sector of the galaxy." Blake leaned forward. "Against the Rigelians?" Lucy was silent for a long moment. Then she sighed, a very human gesture of resignation. "The truth is complicated," she finally said. "May I see your historical fragments?" Greg handed her the data pad. Lucy read quickly, her eyes moving back and forth across the screen. Then she set it down and looked at Blake and Greg with new resolve. "We weren't betrayed," she whispered. "We succeeded." "What do you mean?" Blake asked. "The Rigelians?" Lucy paused, seeming to struggle with what she was about to say. "They weren't real, not exactly." Greg and Blake exchanged confused looks. "Early in human space exploration, we faced many dangers," Lucy continued. "Natural disasters, hostile environments, and occasionally hostile species. Our leaders decided we needed to be stronger, faster, more aggressive. But how do you transform an entire species into perfect warriors? How do you maintain that martial spirit through generations of peace? You create an enemy," Greg realized, his eyes widening. "An enemy that never goes away." Lucy nodded. "The Rigelian threat was created by our own leaders. A fabricated enemy, used to justify the militarization of humanity. Most humans believed the Rigelians were real. I believed it, until this moment. But the records I found," Greg protested. "They speak of real threats that humans fought against." "Yes," Lucy agreed. "Once we had been transformed into the perfect fighting force, we were used against actual threats. Hostile species, cosmic disasters, anything that threatened life in this sector. The devourers mentioned in your fragment were real. We fought them and many others." Blake looked troubled. "So humans saved countless civilizations, including the ancestors of many Union species? And then, what? Why did you disappear from history?" "Our creators recognized a problem," Lucy explained. "What happens when perfect warriors run out of wars to fight? Their solution was to place us in stasis, programmed to awaken only if truly needed, and erase our existence from galactic memory. That's why the records were edited," Greg said with growing excitement. "Not to hide some terrible secret, but to let you sleep undisturbed." Lucy looked down at her hands. "We weren't meant to be remembered. We were meant to sleep forever, or awaken only in the galaxy's darkest hour. And now you're awake with no true enemy to fight, Blake said grimly. And your programming demands conflict. Lucy nodded. Rick and the others are following their conditioning. They need an enemy. If they can't find the Rigelians, they'll find someone else to fight. It's what we were made for. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Finally, Blake spoke. We need to stop them before they start a war. Can you help us? Lucy's expression was troubled. I'll try, but you need to understand. Even I feel the pull toward conflict. It's in our blood, in our modified genes, in the implants that help us think and fight. We were born for war. That's all we know. As if to emphasize her point, alarms suddenly blared. A communications officer rushed in. Admiral, we're receiving reports that human forces have engaged a mining colony in the Taurus sector. They claim to have found Rigelian technology there. Lucy closed her eyes briefly. It's beginning. Once the fighting starts, it will be almost impossible to stop. Greg looked at his datapad, still displaying the ancient texts praising the mysterious defenders. How do we stop gods of war when they're determined to find a battle? 3 days after the attack on the mining colony, tension filled the galaxy. Human forces had secured 7 star systems, claiming they contained Rigelian technology. The Union Council was divided on how to respond. Some wanted to fight back. Others feared what would happen if they challenged these perfect warriors. Lucy Harris, senior researcher Alan Powell, and intelligence officer Greg Mason worked day and night on a solution. They had set up a special lab on the Union Science Station Hope. Their plan was bold and risky, but it might be the only way to prevent a galaxy-wide war. The original stasis technology was designed to keep our bodies alive but our minds asleep, Lucy explained as she worked on a complex set of calculations. What if we could modify it? Create a system where our bodies sleep, but our minds remain active in a shared virtual space? Powell looked up from his work. A simulation? You want to put all the humans in a virtual reality? Lucy nodded. A place where we can fight our wars, use our skills, fulfill our purpose, but without harming the real galaxy. Greg frowned. Will the others agree to this? Commander Owen seems determined to find real enemies. I'm counting on 2 things, Lucy said. First, that deep down, most humans know the Rigelians aren't real. Second, that we're tired. We were made for a purpose that no longer exists. This gives us a way to fulfill our programming without causing harm. They called their plan Project Dreamland. While they worked, Admiral Blake tried to maintain peace. She met with Rick Owens on a neutral space station, trying to convince him to stand down his forces. Commander Owens, Blake said formally as they sat across from each other in a conference room. The mining colony you attacked had no Rigelian technology. It was a peaceful operation run by civilians. Rick's face showed no emotion. Our sensors detected energy signatures matching Rigelian patterns. We had to be certain. And were you? Blake challenged. Did you find any actual evidence? For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Rick's face. The signatures were inconclusive. We're still analyzing the data. Blake leaned forward. Commander, I believe you know the truth. The Rigelians don't exist. They never did. They were created to give humans a reason to become perfect warriors. That's not possible, Rick said, but his voice lacked conviction. We've found records of your species, Blake continued. You were called the Defenders. You saved countless civilizations, including the ancestors of many Union species. Then you chose to sleep, to rest until truly needed. Rick was silent for a long moment. If what you say is true, then what purpose do we have now? Fighting is all we know. It's what we were made for. Lucy Harris has an idea, Blake said. Something called Project Dreamland. A place where you can be what you were made to be without causing real harm. Rick looked skeptical but agreed to hear the proposal. 2 weeks later, Union Admiral Blake and Human Commander Owens stood on the observation deck of the space station Conciliation. Through the large windows, they could see the newly terraformed planet below. Human ships orbited in perfect formation, a display of power and precision. "Are you sure about this?" Blake asked. "The Union could benefit from human expertise. Your kind has much to teach us." Owen shook his head. "We were made for war, Admiral. That's all we know. Even now, with the truth revealed, I feel the pull. To find enemies, to strategize, to conquer. It's in our blood." Blake understood. Over the past weeks, humans had discovered the truth about their origins. Many were angry at first, feeling betrayed by their long-dead creators. But as they searched their feelings, most realized they had always suspected something wasn't right about the Rigelian threat. Lucy's plan had been approved. Project Dreamland would use modified stasis technology to create a shared virtual reality. The humans would enter a sleep state, but their minds would be active in a simulation where they could fight their wars, use their skills, and fulfill their purpose without endangering the galaxy. "What if we need you again?" Blake asked. "Real threats still exist. Then you have the protocols," Owens replied. "Just like before. If the need is genuine, if the threat is real, we'll wake. But pray it doesn't come to that, Admiral. Pray that we sleep soundly and that our wars remain dreams." On the planet below, humans were gathering at the new facility. It looked different from the old stasis centers, more open, more peaceful. Each pod was connected to a central system that would maintain the shared virtual space. Lucy Harris stood with Alan Powell, watching as her fellow humans willingly entered their pods. "Do you think it will work?" Powell asked. Lucy smiled sadly. "I hope so. We were made to be weapons, but we can choose to be guardians instead, protecting the galaxy by removing ourselves from it." "You could stay awake," Powell suggested. "You've shown you can resist your programming better than most. You could be a bridge between humans and the Union." Lucy shook her head. "I feel the pull, too. The need to fight, to conquer. It's safer if I sleep with the others." She placed a hand on Powell's shoulder. "But thank you for seeing me as more than a weapon." The last human entered their stasis pod willingly. The facility was placed under Union protection, with strict orders never to disturb the slumber of these ancient guardians. In time, new legends spread through the galaxy, not of extinct monsters or vengeful gods, but of sleeping guardians. Protectors who had sacrificed their humanity to become living weapons, then sacrificed their consciousness to protect the peace they'd won. Humans became revered as distant sleeping deities, the gods of war who chose eternal slumber over bloodshed. And throughout the Union, a new saying emerged among those who faced conflict or sought power through violence. "Tread carefully among the stars. Humans are sleeping war deities. Pray they don't wake." In the simulation, Lucy stood on a digital battlefield. Around her, fellow humans fought against imaginary Rigelians. The combat satisfied their programming while their physical bodies remained safely asleep. Sometimes, in quiet moments between virtual battles, Lucy would look up at the simulated sky and wonder about the real galaxy beyond. She hoped it remained peaceful, that her people's sacrifice meant something. And sometimes she thought she could hear the real stars singing a lullaby to the sleeping gods of war.